Hi Alive kids, my name is Emily and I am from Alive Church in Gainsborough. I am so excited to read your bedtime story tonight. I hope you have had a lovely day, whether you've been at home or whether you've been at school. Today I am going to read The Road to Damascus. Saul was an angry man who did not like Christians at all. He yelled and screamed at them. He made nasty threats. He beat them and sometimes even killed them. Saul was definitely not a man anyone would want to befriend. On this particular day, Saul was travelling to the city of Damascus. He wanted the leaders of the city to give him permission to hurt more Christians. As he and his friends were making their way along the dusty road, discussing what they were going to say to the leaders, and bragging about how happy they would be to receive permission to persecute the Christians, suddenly, from out of heaven, came the brightest light Saul had ever seen. The light surrounded him. He tried to cover his eyes to shield the light, but it was so bright that it hurt his eyes. He fell down on the ground, trying to get away from it. Then he heard a voice. It was unlike any voice he had ever heard, saying, "Saul, Saul, why do you want to persecute me?" Saul, not recognizing the voice, said, "Who are you?" The answer came back, "I am Jesus." Of course, Saul was terribly afraid. He was shaking and trembling and could hardly speak. In a weak voice he said, "Lord, what should I do?" Jesus replied, Go into the city and someone will meet you and tell you what to do." The friends that were with him were astonished. They didn't see the light. They didn't see a person. They only heard the voice. They didn't have a clue what was happening. When Saul was able to get off the ground, he uncovered his eyes, but he couldn't see anything. His friends had to hold his hands and lead him into the city of Damascus. The light was so bright, it had blinded him. For 3 whole days, he couldn't see anything at all. While all of this was happening, on the road outside the city of Damascus, something else was happening inside the city. The Christians were becoming fearful because they had heard Saul was on his way. They knew he was a cruel man that didn't like them. They knew what terrible things he had done to other Christians, and they were getting quite worried. There was a Christian man named Ananias who loved the Lord very much. God spoke to him in a vision, telling him to go down the street to find Saul. Now, Ananias had heard all the stories about Saul, and he wasn't very fond of this plan. Ananias spoke to the Lord. "What if he hurts me? What if he wants to kill me? Are you sure about this, Lord?" "I'm sure we can all understand, Ananias." His hesitation was to go out and find Saul. The Lord spoke to Ananias again, reassuring him that everything would be fine. Ananias found the house where Saul was staying and went in for a visit. While he was there, he prayed to Saul and the blindness left him. The Lord healed him so he could see again. Saul stayed in Damascus with the Christians. He became good friends with them and learned from them. It wasn't long before Saul became a preacher, teaching people about Jesus. Everyone was amazed. They couldn't believe that this same person that had hated them so much wanted to kill them. What a fantastic story about Saul and how he started as a mean person and Christians feared him. and then God had changed him to be a better person and to preach the gospel to children and to adults. So let's have a little think. Does Jesus only care about good people? I think Jesus cares about everyone. We can see that Saul was not a good person and he was not nice to Christians, but God still used him and changed him to be a great person who preached about Jesus. From this story, I think it's so important to remember that even though people are mean, God still loves them and can help them to change. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I have loved reading this story with you. I hope you sleep well. Goodbye.